Greetings virtual wanderers, Aeons here. You ever get that feeling when a new year is coming right around the corner and you start looking ahead at all the worlds you might get lost in next? That's kind of where I'm at right now. We're about to step into 2026, and there are quite a few open world games lining up that I've been keeping my eye on. In this video, I'm going through the ones I'm personally most curious about for next year. I'll be talking about what each game is aiming to do, the open world features we know so far, and what I'm hoping to see once they're actually in our hands. In no particular order. Of course, things can change as development moves along, so I'm not going too deep on any single title. Think of this as a quick walk around of what's coming up, based on what we know right now. And before we continue, if you like open world content like this, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give this video a like. Okay, now let's get into it. Coming out of that intro, it feels natural to start with the obvious giant on the horizon, GTA VI, which takes us back to Vice City but rebuilt as Leonida, a modern take on Florida with the usual modern crime theme that GTA always had. What I've been eyeing on is how much the world itself seems to be the real focus this time, with talk of a map far larger than GTA V, hundreds of interiors you can actually walk into, and a bunch of simulation systems that sound closer to Red Dead Redemption 2 than any past GTA. There are also plenty of expectations around how previous mechanics are going to be upgraded and how reactive the city will feel, whether that's police behavior, changing neighborhoods, or little details shifting over time. It really feels like Rockstar is aiming for a more systemic and lived-in open world than anything they've done before. Rolling into a series that is rarely ever serious, the next big return is Yakuza Kiwami 3, which brings back Kiryu's Okinawa and Kamurocho story while also packing in a whole new campaign called Dark Ties. Based on everything confirmed, the Dragon Engine rebuild is going to make both cities feel far denser than the old 2009 version, with more interiors, smoother transitions into fights, and a stronger sense of daily life around the orphanage. We're also expecting richer sub-stories that tie more naturally into Kiryu's time with the kids, plus a more strategic and darker tone when stepping into Mind's story, which developers say hints at where the series is heading next. With upgraded combat, more lively districts, and expanded slice-of-life moments, this remake feels like a chance to reintroduce one of the series' most emotional chapters with a lot more weight and texture that we can finally play, without the PS3 check. The next one I'm looking at is Crimson Desert, which comes from the studio behind Black Desert Online but shifts everything into a fully single-player adventure set across the continent of Pywell. From what we've seen so far, the open world is going to have multiple biomes with dynamic weather and temperature effects. We're also looking at a wide range of activities that you were able to do in its online counterpart, like fishing, hunting, horse taming, and other minigames. I played my fair share of Black Desert Online myself, so I'm really hoping to see the same features in this new single-player entry. You can even see a stronger push for vertical exploration and physics-driven moments in the previews, with climbing, skydiving off floating islands, and structures reacting to hits in real time. The combat also looks a bit heavier and more hands-on than Black Desert Online. Now jumping into a sinking city, literally, the Sinking City 2 has been on my radar mostly because Frogware seems to be taking everything they learned from the first game, which generally didn't get a good reception from players, and rebuilding it into something far more focused on survival and atmosphere. Looking at it so far, the city is split into regions with half-submerged neighborhoods and collapsing mansions. And not to mention, the whole place is packed with environmental clues and story threads for you to piece together, all while the water keeps rising. The loop mixes investigation with tight gun-based encounters against all sorts of eldritch creatures, and I'm mostly curious about how much your choices actually shape the story and the routes through the city. With all that in mind, it could end up being one of the standout horror worlds of 2026. especially for those out there who are into Lovecraftian lore. Moving on, the Blood of Dawnwalker is one I've been curious about ever since Rebel Wolves announced it, mostly because it's a brand new studio built by folks who worked on The Witcher 3. It throws you into a bleak, folklore-inspired land where your character flips between human and vampire as you race against a 30-day deadline to save your family. From the early showcases, the world looks very handcrafted, with dense forests, foggy swamps, and old ruins. What to keep an eye on is how much the day and night loop changes the vibe, giving you different abilities, different dangers, and quests that actually move forward with or without you. The combat also seems to lean into that dual identity, with a mix of weapons, magic, and vampiric powers that turn knights into something much more predatory. If anything, the biggest concern fans keep raising is whether that 30-day clock will feel immersive or restrictive. Going into another second entry of a series, we have Outward 2, which expands on everything that made the first game unique, focusing on survival, preparation, and a world that constantly reacts to you. Set 50 years after the original, it places you in Aurai as an ordinary traveler rather than a chosen hero. Your path is shaped by the starting scenario and background you select, influencing your relationships, early advantages, and the kinds of challenges you face. Aurai itself is divided into 4 large regions, each with its own biomes, dangers, and seasonal challenges. Exploration here looks more dynamic with NPC routines, shifting weather, and environmental storytelling. And even though the first Outward lacked polish and was buggy, its unique take on the genre built a loyal niche following that hopefully allows the sequel to reach a broader audience. Jumping into the third game that is the second entry of a series, Code Vein 2 shifts the series into a larger, segmented open world while keeping the anime-styled Souls-like combat and customization fans love. You play a revived Revenant Hunter jumping between 2 timelines to stop a growing threat that's turning people into monsters. The world itself is built around interconnected regions and dungeon-like zones, with a customizable bike acting as your main way of getting around. Each timeline has its own landmarks, enemies, and hidden routes, giving exploration a layered feel. Combat mixes weapon variety with supernatural skills tied to blood codes and jails. Early previews suggest that action in one era can affect the other, changing NPC behavior or unlocking new paths. If Bandai Namco delivers on that idea, this sequel could end up far more reactive than its predecessor. Another Souls-like game for the hardcore fans out there. Well, the developer didn't call it open world, but open field, which from the previews looks like it's basically an open world with segmented regions. Nioh 3 is taking the series into a bigger, more connected world with this design, letting you roam regions without breaking the tight, challenging level design the series is known for. From what we've seen in the previews, the game alternates between dense, loot-rich areas and these brutal hell zones where every fight matters. And the new ninja combat style adds a faster, evasion-focused layer on top of the classic samurai approach. Guardian spirit transformations, soul cores, and the variety of weapons and skills showcased so far suggests that encounters could be flexible, so I'll dive into it when I want to torture myself with countless respawns. Before we jump into the last few games, and believe me, the last 2 games are worth sticking around for, we have a few honorable mentions that might be worth keeping on your radar. The first one is Witcher 4. Witcher 4 is obviously one of the most anticipated open world games out there, but we're keeping it on the side for now since there's still no sign it will land in 2026. At this point, it feels pretty clear we'll be waiting a little longer before it's anywhere near release. Same deal as Witcher 4, The Elder Scrolls 6 is a huge open world RPG that everyone's been waiting for more than 10 years. But with no official release window, it's unlikely to hit 2026. Still, it's definitely one to keep an eye on for the future. Not a traditional release but a massive total conversion mod, Skyblivion is worth calling out for anyone who loves the Elder Scrolls or the modding scene, bringing Oblivion back to life as an option to the already released remastered. The last of the honorable mentions is Subnautica 2, which is a more ambitious follow-up to the original indie hit, moving beyond its indie roots due to an acquisition by a major publisher, along with its surrounding controversy. Still, it's one of the most exciting oceanic open worlds aimed at 2026. Well, that's about it for the honorable mentions. But let us know, do any of them strike your interest? Now back to the last two games. Gothic 1 Remake. And damn, does this one bring back a lot of memories in the open world classic RPG. Gothic takes the old Valley of the Mines and rebuilds it with modern visuals. But the core setup is still the same. You're a prisoner tossed into a colony sealed by a magical barrier, and the whole place runs on uneven conflicts. From the footage and the demo, the world feels more organic this time, with NPCs actually following routines, wildlife doing its own thing, and different corners of the valley changing depending on how you handle quests and reputation. Exploration still leans on that handcrafted feel, with caves, camps, and ruins tucked off the main paths. And the updated combat looks a lot smoother while keeping the same deliberate style. Most players seem to be looking for a faithful remake that keeps the grit intact. And I'm right here with them, since the Gothic series is one of my favorite RPGs. And honestly, I'm hoping they eventually remake the second one too. The last game I'm really watching is the new Fable, which brings us back to Albion after 15 years, in a full reboot that mixes fairy tale charm with that oddball British humor the series is known for. But this time the world itself reacts in bigger ways, like forests changing or towns shifting depending on how you play. What's exciting is Playground seems to be aiming for a seamless open world instead of the old multi-hub style, with distinct regions, lively towns, and plenty of quirky side characters to bump into. What we're hoping to see in this reboot is deeper moral consequences, more playful side activities, and a level of detail that matches the studio's work on Forza Horizon, just filtered through a fantasy lens. And I just hope this reboot brings back the open world and social mechanics mix the series was known for, but pushes them even further with a stronger focus on those features. And that's a wrap on our personal roundup of the open worlds we're most excited about for 2026. There's definitely a lot on the list, and I'm sure some of you have already picked your own favorites. For me, GTA VI is up there for the sheer scale and systems, and the Fable Reboot has me hopeful I can dive back into the series whose unique social mechanics have stayed with me for years. If we've missed any games you're looking forward to, or if there are other hidden gems you think deserves a shout out, drop them in the comments or join our Discord through the link in the description. I'm curious to see what worlds you're planning to get lost in next year. And if you want to see what open world games are actually good gameplay wise in 2025, head on over to our tier list video. Okay, that's it for now. And until then, happy exploring.